Evening and welcome to our virtual online parents evening so that we can welcome the new students and families who will be joining the Emmbrook School in September. It's funny, it's not until you stare yourself in the face of a TV screen that you realise you really are clashing with all the stripes on your shirts and tie choice this morning, so apologies for that, but I think what we want to do today is just say hello to you, because there's a very strange quirk of school admissions, which is at the moment, you know you have a place with the Emmbrook School, but we do not know the people who have been given places at the Emmbrook School. So what we've learned over the years is it's nice to do an evening like this where you get a little bit of a reintroduction to us. Some of you won't have seen us for some time, and that just gets things going. So I'm Nick McSweeney, I'm the head teacher of the Emmbrook, and on the call this evening I'm joined by two colleagues and another one in the room with me here. Those colleagues are Taj Bambra, who's our senior deputy head, and Roxy Ridsdale, who's our deputy head teacher, and the colleague in the room here with me is Craig Johnson, assistant head teacher, specifically responsible for transitioning to the school. What I'm going to do in a moment is hand over to Craig Johnson, and he's going to give you a talk through on key things that you need to be aware of before you join the school. But before I do that, I'll go over to Mr. Bambra and Mrs. Ridsdale, who are sat in other rooms in the school site, and hear a hello from them. So I'm hoping, it's a bit like Eurovision this, Mr. Bambra, are you there, and can you come in and say hello?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mr. McSweeney. I'm Mr. Bambra. I have significant substantive responsibilities, particularly around the quality of education and SEND provision. So if you have any questions later on those things, I'll be very happy to take them. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bambra. And we also have Roxy Ridsdale, our other deputy head teacher, with us in another room somewhere off. Are you there?
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to offer a warm welcome to you all. I'm Roxy Ridsdale, and my key role within school is around the pastoral care of all of our students, which could include engagement, their attitudes, their wellbeing and their attendance. And I'm also the designated safeguarding lead and work with a fantastic team to support students in regards to that area as well. So if there are any questions, please never hesitate to contact me.
Thank you. So those colleagues are both there to answer questions. So once Mr. Johnson's given his talk, there will be a chance for any questions that we've received to be answered. So if you do have questions, do please pop them into the question section in the chat area of Teams. And then once Mr. Johnson has done his talk, I will just say a few little things and then we'll go into questions and answers. And any one of the four of us might end up answering any questions that we have. So I'll hand over now to Mr. Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm producing and presenting at the same time, so I'm hoping that's right that it comes through. So good evening. I'm Craig Johnson, so I'm assistant head teacher and charged with transition, and then I work closely with years 7 and 8 on their behaviour, conduct and progress. So essentially from meeting all of you guys in year 5, I'll see you up till the end of year 8 and then kind of say goodbye until the 6th form, because I teach mainly business and economics up there. So when you all choose to do business and economics in the 6th form, I'll see you again at the top end of the school. I'm an ex-pupil myself. So back in 1994, I was sat in your position, dreaming of coming to the Emmbrook School and learning everything about it and doing everything here. I am an absolute fan of the Emmbrook School. I love everything it stands for. I love the values. I love Mr. McSweeney's approach to everything. I think it's an excellent school. And I want to kind of, over the next few months, guide the students' passion and drive towards that as well, so that when they start in September, they know what we're all about and what our expectations are. We've kind of got one big thing a month over the next few months, ready until September. As Mr. McSweeney says, we don't know who you are. If I did, I'd be spamming your inboxes every day with information. Once we do get your information from the council, we'll be able to start sending out the info packs and do a bit of data collection. So this info pack is going to be a big document that's going to have everything about the school, the times of the day, where you get your buses from, what happens in the canteen, the kind of nitty-gritty of day-to-day life at the Emmbrook school. There's also going to be some data collection sheets, and there's some that are for the students, so you can tell us all a little bit about yourself. There's some for you parents, so you can tell us a bit about your children and a little bit about yourselves to make sure that we have all the information needed. In May, we're going to start our visits, and we'll go to every primary school and we'll talk to you, the children, to find out a bit about yourself, what your likes and dislikes are. We'll talk to your teachers and find out what your strengths and weaknesses are. And then we bring all that back together and have big meetings to discuss you in a lovely way. In June, there is our induction day. That's on the 29th. That's where everyone gets invited to be on site. You'll do a bit of orienteering, you'll do a trial lesson, you'll get to try the food in the canteen. So there's some really exciting things that will happen that day, and you'll see, your first trial day at the Emmbrook. We are delighted to launch as well the summer school again. So this is on August the 25th, which happens to be GCSE results day. We'll invite all of you in for a few hours on that day to take part in some more activities. I say summer school, it's more summer fun day. The idea of the transition is to increase familiarity with the site, the staff and each other, and so this gives an opportunity to do a bit of lessons in DT, some science and treasure hunts and things like that on that day as well. It's not compulsory, it's just something that's open to you. Again, more details will come. And then finally there comes the big day, September. Day 1 is going to be the 5th of September. Now the school is open for year 7 and year 12 on that day, so both kind of first days for the two parts of the school. So it gives year 7 a bit of a chance to learn their timetables, get to know their tutors a bit, let to know who's in their tutor groups, and enjoy a leisurely start to the day without the hustle and bustle of everybody else. So that's kind of what we've got planned up until September, up until day 1. So lots more information will be coming out. More critically, usually people ask at this point about uniforms. Well, our uniform supplier is Marks and Spencer's. That information will be in the pack that comes out. I would urge you to get in early. You may have heard of from other students. There was some issues last year around uniform being delivered quite on time, so I would suggest getting in early. We usually get asked about tutor groups and finding out who will be in which tutor group. Well, that comes down to once we've done all of our visits and once we've collected in all the information about you, we'll sit down, have a meeting, and we'll try and do a little bit of social engineering to make sure that people are in the right groups. And the same is true with classes as well, that I think maths are very good on the first day at giving you a little bit of an assessment, and then they set based on that information. Some subjects use the Key Stage 3 data, other subjects wait until we've done some, we call it the CATS test, the cognitive ability tests, and it's not every year 7 goes through it, and it allows us just to stream at that early stage. So we don't have anything set in plans, you won't get that information much before September. Now for all the students watching, maybe I'm thinking about what your worries might be, and it tends to be the same worries all the time. I've got a daughter who is in year 6 and she's preparing to go to her secondary school in September, so I've been talking to her about what she's worried about, and it's the same that we tend to face. And so one of them is getting lost, and that's why we've got all these events leading up that you get to learn a bit about the site. You will likely get lost, but it's okay. All the teachers are lovely and will show you around, and in fact the older students quite like to be justifiably late to their lessons because they've been helping the younger students. So you have got a lot of help out there. Another worry is about organisation, getting your books ready, about knowing what lessons you've got. And we've got some really helpful tools now for this. We've got an app called Satchel One, where it gives you your timetables on there, your homework set on there. So it really helps with organising, that you can use devices and electronics to help you with that. And the last big worry is making friends. And it is a worry, and it will be a worry until it starts happening, and we're here to help with that. So say we put you in nice form groups, we've got your form tutors that will look after you, and we make sure that kind of everyone has someone to talk to. But that will be a worry until you're here, until we're in the thick of it. And finally, I want to talk to the parents. I've got it on my little notes here of parent worries, and this isn't necessarily things you might be worried about. It's things that I'm saying kind of get a little bit prepared for. The big differences that we see that parents aren't usually prepared for is, one is we talked about the changes in friendship groups for the students, and this can have an impact on parents, that your friendship groups might currently be dictated by the children, and when those change, we find parents struggle with that, maintaining their own friendship groups. I'm sure it won't be a problem for you, but just kind of start thinking about that now. The next one is a bit more freedom. So secondary school is very different to junior and primary school. that they're with the same teacher all day. Here you've got your 5 different teachers a day, 5 minutes in between each lesson, and the 2 break times where you get a little bit more freedom. And some students struggle with that a little bit. So it's kind of working with your children over the next few months to prepare them for, I'm going to call it the integrity, one of our school values, having integrity, of doing the right thing even when no one's watching, making sure that they know that they need to get from A to B directly and not wander around a little bit. And lastly is kind of the big problem we face that not many of us would have had at school, which is about mobile phones. And the issues that we tend to face here are around sharing of images of each other or inappropriate images, and sort of the politics surrounding group chats. So what I do is urge you to have conversations with your children over the next few months about their use of mobile phones, about how they conduct themselves online, preparing themselves ready for September and kind of going from having 30, 60 people in their year group to 240. So I'll take a real brief, compact overview of what's going to happen. I'm really excited. I want to launch a few competitions as well. Over the last couple of years, we've done a selfie competition where students can win some Emmbrook merchandise if they come to the front gate and take a selfie with the sign. And so hopefully we've got lots of fun. But we know that you're very welcome into our family, and we can't wait to have you here on site fully. I'll hand you back over to Mr. McSweeney now, if I can get all the buttons right. Apologies.
Am I back, sir?
I think so.
There you go. Thank you very much. Right. I think Mr. Johnson's given a really good and really brief introduction to some of the key themes that will be running over the next few months. And we do want to keep this meeting relatively brief because we know how busy life is. And in fact, I do have a very tight deadline at the end, because after this meeting, I need to be at a council planning meeting at 7 o'clock. Because we're going to be talking about the new building works that we're planning to start actually next month, which is really exciting. You will have heard me talk before about the Emmbrook, and Mr. Johnson's referenced our values there. They mean a huge amount to me personally, and I think they're really embedded within the life of the school. And that has led to a school that has grown really rapidly. And I'm really delighted that this year we essentially filled on first preferences, which is a real change from when I became the head teacher here just 4 years ago. And in fact, for the 3rd year running, we're taking on that extra form into the new year 7 intake, which is really good. It means we've grown a lot, but we've also worked really hard to retain our character as a school. And what I'm pleased about is that growth is actually starting to level off a little bit, because whilst growth is important for the future of the school, we don't want to lose our identity, and we won't keep growing forever and become a huge, massive school. That's really, really important to us. Now, over the years, we've become a little bit slicker at doing this. And I'll be honest with you, the first time we did it, we had something like 100 questions and we were here all night. What we've tried to do each year is learn from that and just make sure that we tick off more and more of the things that keep coming up in Mr. Johnson's part of the talk. And we will now see how successful we have been with that. I am told at the moment we have just a single question, and I think I've actually seen it come up. It's a question about how we sort people into houses from Chloe. Now, if you do have questions, do type them in. We've got 4 people who know the school incredibly well, and we can answer those questions for you. Chloe's question is really a very good question. How do we sort people into houses? We have our sorting hat in the school. But that sorting hat is a colleague called Mrs. Wood, and Mrs. Wood spends a huge amount of time getting all of the information that Mr. Johnson's just mentioned about you from you and about you from your teachers, and she spends a huge amount of time sorting everybody into the houses so that they are completely balanced, so that they have the same kind of sporting ability and the same kind of academic ability, and spreading everybody out to try and make the houses as even as possible, because we want really competitive competitions between the houses. We don't want one house to romp away and win everything every year. So a lot of work goes into it. Now, you've also mentioned about ties, and I'm going to share something with you all that hasn't actually been shared with the main school community, but we're just about to put out a consultation about whether we want to change the ties or not. We're going to keep the uniform. Everything's essentially staying the same, but at the moment we have 4 ties. And so I'm just going to ask whether we want to keep the 4 ties, one for each house, or go for a single school tie. We will make that decision and we will let you know. So you know something that actually most of the students in the school do not yet know. And in fact, I think that's news to Mr. Johnson as well. So we're going to do that. And there's another bit of breaking news that I can share for parents. Actually, Mr. Johnson doesn't know this. This hasn't been announced to our parents yet, but we are moving away from M&S as our uniform supplier. So we will have a new uniform supplier. And I'm seeing from Mr. Johnson's face that is news to him. And I think that's going to be really exciting because actually it hasn't been the smoothest for the last couple of years. So we've wanted to make sure that we come up with something that is going to be a bit better. So more details will follow on that, but I've got real confidence in the new company that we will be partnering with for September. Have we got any other questions at the moment? We've got 2 other questions. What is the volume of homework like? And does it change over time as you get used to the school? I think that's a great question. Now, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Bamborough for this one, because Mr. Bamborough, one of his many responsibilities is he is responsible for the quality of education in the school. And within that is homework. So, Mr. Bamborough, could you talk a little bit about homework and how maybe the expectations change from year 7 through to year 13?
Thank you, sir. So, this is a really important question. The high quality teaching, learning and the use of assessment underpins strong academic outcomes. And one of the things we're all agreed on is we want our children to leave school with the best outcomes that they possibly can do. Homework is part of that educational experience. Now, Mr. Johnson alluded to the big change that's coming for our children as they come from primary school to secondary school. So yes, there will be homework in year 7. It is scheduled. It is on a program called Satchel. Children can access that on their mobile phones and on laptops. And there is an expectation that they complete a certain amount of work, subject related, every day or every evening. It's not onerous. It's not. It should add to the enjoyment of learning. And reading will be fundamental to that as well, because reading is a very, very important part of what we are aiming to improve in school. Going through the years, yes, you can expect that homework time to increase, the expectation to increase. Certainly by the time our youngsters are at GCSE stage, in year 10 and in 11, they will be busier. There's no running away from that. The curriculum demands are greater at GCSE than they are at Key Stage 3. Our expectations are high at Key Stage 3. I wouldn't say they're any higher at Key Stage 4. They are high at Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. Yes, so the young people will be busy doing homework, but it is seen as an essential proponent to their learning experience. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Bamborough. A couple of really practical questions about the school day, and then a really important question about bullying, which I'll go to Mrs. Ridsdale for. So on the school day, it is an early start. We start a little bit earlier. The first bell goes at 8:20. And so you go into form time and you have 20 minutes with your form tutor at the beginning of the day. And that is really constructed time. So we do a different thing every single day. And it varies from really important things like reading through to our personal development curriculum, so helping you understand the world around you a little bit better. And then we have 5 one-hour lessons through the day. So you're moving around, you spend an hour in a place. I think that's really about right, if I'm honest. If you've ever done anything, about an hour, that's a really good time to be able to concentrate for. Much more than that, and maybe your attention starts to wander a little bit. So an hour, 5 one-hour lessons, but then we get through to the end of the day and everybody lessons finished by 2:55. So it's a nice early end to the day as well. But as Mr. Bamborough's answer has just given you a really good indication, you will have some things to keep you busy in the evening as well with homework. Now, we have had a really important question from Michael here about worries about bullying and what we do to prevent that. So I'm going to hand over to Mrs. Ridsdale, who will be able to reassure you, I'm sure.
Good evening. Yeah, I completely understand the concerns around bullying, and we do everything possible to prevent it from happening, but also tackle it when it does occur, because obviously we do have a large cohort of students. We've got 1,200 currently with us at the moment, and it does happen. It is very, very rare, but we do tackle it and we do address it. We try to ensure as much as possible that we do a lot of educational work around bullying, and I think when we look at our core values, having family as the first value, it really promotes what we want us as a school to feel like, that we're there to support each other and be respectful to each other as well. So, for example, within our PSHE programme, we talk about different types of bullying, so verbal bullying, online bullying, what that looks like, the signs, what we do if that occurs, how can we prevent it. We have a strong programme around Anti-Bullying Week where we have assemblies. We have a Here For You. We've just launched it this year in regards to our safeguarding. So we have a student-focused Here For You email address that is accessible for all, and they can report any concerns to us in an email format if they're not comfortable in discussing that in person first of all, and we'll pick that up. But we do try to ensure that we have a really strong induction process so that they come in with somebody that they're friends with, they're not on their own. And if they're coming from individual schools, we try and buddy them up on those induction days to ensure that they have somebody at the start in September. There are other pastoral interventions that we have in place. We have the lounge, which is available to our Year 7 students when they join us in September, which is a safe space, which is run by an external agency where they can go, they can make friends, they can talk about any worries that they have. And we also have a very strong dedicated pastoral and behaviour team who will support all of our students as they go through and build those relationships where they feel comfortable to share any worries or concerns that they may have. So I'm hoping just a little insight into the things that we do has answered your question, Michael.
Thank you, Mrs. Ridsdale. I think that's really useful, really useful. I think the underlying thing is we take it seriously here. There's a mantra that we introduced a few years ago, which I think is really important, is it does happen here. And I think that underlines a lot of our work. We start with the premise that things like that, those things that worry people, they will be happening here, so we need to find it. I think that's a really good starting place to have, and I always worry that you might approach the problem with, oh, it doesn't happen here, but of course it does happen because schools are big, busy, diverse places, and so it's really important that we're really vigilant and work with the students, with the parents, to make sure that we tackle any issues as and when they arise. And in fact, diversity is something that has come up from one of the questioners about the diversity of the school. And we do have a really diverse school, and one that has changed a lot since I joined the school. So I arrived at Emmbrook in 2005, and back then the school wasn't particularly diverse. In fact, the statistics are really clear. It was over 90% white British, so it wasn't a very diverse school. Now, white British is still the biggest group in the school, but it's only about 66%. And I think that change in the school's population is really welcome, and it's brought with it huge benefits and lots of opportunities to learn from each other and understand from each other. And what a really great example of that is next week, our students are hosting a cultural diversity evening. And I'm really excited. There's going to be live music, performances, food, readings. It's going to be a really fantastic celebration of all of the various cultures here within the school. And I think that's absolutely all for the good. And there are other groups that support that, and so lots of student leadership in that. So something really exciting that I'm particularly proud of about the Emmbrook. Some other questions around IT. When it comes to IT is a massively important learning tool, but our approach here at the Emmbrook is very much that we will provide the IT that is needed here in the school. So we've got the laptops, we've got the computer rooms, we've got the iPads. What the teachers need, we have here in the school. If you want to make the choice to purchase IT equipment to support your child, then absolutely that's for the good, and I would always encourage you to do that, but it's not something that's coming from us per se as a push. There are lots of really useful websites and apps that we have. So we have Maths Watch, that students can do their homework through Maths Watch. These apps tend to work on phone and on computer, so there isn't that pressure that you necessarily have to go out and buy a laptop. As the students go up through the school, the benefit of having that laptop probably does grow, and a lot of our sixth formers have laptops, and many of them bring them into school and use them. But certainly in year 7, it's not something that I think is an absolute top priority at all. Information on buses. We don't have the information on buses, so the best place to get information on the buses is from the Wokingham school transport page online. It is the one thing really that Wokingham completely manage, so we really don't have any input or influence even over the services that they run and how they run them. So the best place to go to on that is Wokingham School Transport. They do have a web page where you can get information. In terms of the packs, it's a job that Mr. Johnson is very much has in hand. Our problem with getting the packs to you is that, as I said earlier, we don't yet know who you are. As soon as we have those contact details, you will start to get information from us, and that will include the pack. There will be some form filling, that's the inescapable truth, but the good news is that they're online forms. So in the past, people would be sending in huge bits of paperwork. Now it can all be done online, which is much, much easier. Any other questions? We have got 2 more. So trips, yes, we absolutely love trips here at the Emmbrook. We have residential trips that run in all through Key Stage 3, so years 7, 8 and 9. In fact, our year 9s are out at the moment this week on their residential trip. It's absolutely optional, so you can opt to come on the trips. And they go, I can't remember where year 7 went this year. I think it was Devon. I would say Devon, but don't hold me to that. I know that year 9 are in Wales this week. What we're really hoping, actually, for people who know the school and the history of the school, is the school used to have a relationship with a centre in Wales called Tirabod. Unfortunately, that closed down during COVID, but it is back. It has been brought back by a new company, and so we're in talks with them about whether we can start sending Emmbrook students back to Tirabod, which would be absolutely fantastic. But also day trips as well, so lots of day trips. In fact, Mr. Bamborough, I'll just throw over to Mr. Bamborough because I happen to know that Mr. Bamborough is on a trip tomorrow that I believe will include year 7 students. Mr. Bamborough, what are you doing tomorrow?
Thank you, sir. We're launching our new year 7 high prior learner policy, which is some of you may recognise that as a gifted and talented policy. It's new for our current year 7, and we've decided to have the big launch at Bletchley Park, of all lovely places to be. So myself and the G&T coordinator, alongside the gifted and talented year 7s, are off to Bletchley Park, sir. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
Sounds very nice, Mr. Bamborough. I'm sure you'll have a lovely day, as will the students. We've actually only got one more question, which is from Chloe. And she asked a really sensible question. When will we get our timetables? So you will be given your timetable on the first day of term, and your tutor will spend a lot of time with you, making sure that you know what it all means and, most importantly, where you need to go. Mr. Johnson talked about getting lost. We've made it as easy as we can for you because we put all the lessons in the same building by and large. So you know when you've got maths, you can go to the maths block. When you've got English, you can go to the English block, things like that. But we'll spend a good amount of time on that. Now, one of the things you'll learn about in year 7 is some of the apps that you have access to. And what our older students have worked out is that we load the timetables onto these apps before we return to school. So actually in future years, you'll be able to have a look on your app, maybe a day or two before we come back, and actually be able to have a sneaky peek at your timetable. But for you in year 7, we'll give you your timetable on the first day. Okay, I think I'm just look for the final nod. Right, that is everything. That's about half an hour. That's, I think, perfect for today. As you've heard from Mr. Johnson, there'll be loads of opportunities for us to meet in person and find out more about you, and you to find out a bit more about us. And that will all happen over the next few months. But I think the most important thing now is to just say a massive welcome to you. I am so pleased that you have a place with us. I think the statistic is that we had 780 applications overall for a place at the Emmbrook. So to have a place here is fantastic, because there's only so many places. You've got your place here. Fantastic. We can't wait to see you here in the future. For now, have a lovely evening, and we will see you soon. Take care.